The vast emptiness of space held many mysteries, but few were as puzzling as the one that now occupied the attention of senior researcher Ixel aboard the Galactic research vessel Enlightenment. Through the ship's quantum sensors, Ixel studied the small vessel that had captured their interest, a human ship barely 200 meters long, maintaining a precise orbit at the edge of an unremarkable star system. "Most fascinating," Ixel murmured, their four eyes blinking in sequence as they analyzed the data streams. "Captain Zara, you might want to see this." Captain Zara glided across the bridge, her crystalline form catching the light of distant stars. The Enlightenment had been mapping this sector for standard years, cataloging potential civilizations for future contact. Finding a human vessel this far from their known territory was unexpected, to say the least. "What have they done to their ship?" Zara asked, her voice resonating with curiosity. The vessel before them defied conventional analysis. Its hull seemed to absorb their scanning beams rather than reflect them, and its energy signature was barely distinguishable from background radiation. "That's what makes this so interesting," Ixel responded, manipulating the holographic display. "By all our measurements, this ship shouldn't be capable of interstellar travel. Yet here it sits, perfectly positioned at the junction of three major spatial currents. Either they're impossibly lucky, or they know exactly what they're doing," Zora finished. She had studied human history, a species barely 1,000 years into space travel, yet they had survived challenges that had destroyed far more advanced civilizations. "Have they detected us?" "Impossible to tell," Ixel admitted. "Their technology appears primitive, but these readings suggest extensive modifications we don't fully understand. They're using what appears to be retrofitted mining equipment to bend light around their hull. Crude, but remarkably effective." The bridge crew worked in silence, gathering data on the mysterious vessel. Its design was utilitarian, all sharp angles and functional surfaces, lacking the aesthetic refinements of more advanced species. Yet there was an elegance to its purposefulness, like a well-crafted stone tool. "Wait," one of the sensor operators called out. "We're detecting a signal. Very weak, using elementary quantum entanglement. They're communicating with something." Zara moved closer to the display. "Can we trace it?" "No need," Ixel said, their voice tight with excitement. "Look at the signal pattern. It's not a communication beam, it's a detection grid. This ship is part of a network." The implication slowly dawned on the bridge crew. The human vessel wasn't alone. Somewhere out there, hidden by the same crude but effective technology, other ships were watching. But watching for what? "Captain," another crew member called out, "I've been analyzing the star system they're monitoring. There's something unusual about the third planet." The main display shifted, showing a blue-green world circling its star. Initial scans revealed an oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, liquid water, and faint technological signatures. A pre-spaceflight civilization, just beginning to reach for the stars. "They're protecting them," Zara whispered, understanding flooding her consciousness. "The humans. They're standing guard." Ixel's analysis confirmed it. The human ship's position wasn't just tactical, it was protective. They had placed themselves precisely where they could monitor approaching vessels while remaining virtually invisible to the developing civilization below. "But why?" one of the junior researchers asked. "They gain nothing from this. That civilization won't achieve spaceflight capability for at least another century." Zara studied the human vessel, remembering her historical research. "Perhaps that's exactly why they're here. They're giving them time to develop naturally, without interference." She paused, considering the elegance of it. No grand fleet, no shows of force, just quiet guardianship. A new alert drew their attention. The human ship was moving, making minute adjustments to its orbit. Its stealth systems remained engaged, but now they could detect a subtle change in its posture. It was repositioning itself, ever so slightly, between the Enlightenment and the planet it protected. "They know we're here," Ixel said, "and they're not backing down." No, Zara agreed. They're not. But they're not threatening us either. They're simply present, ready. She felt a newfound respect for these supposed primitives who had found a way to protect others without intimidation or shows of force. The bridge fell silent as they contemplated the scene before them. Here, at the edge of known space, they had discovered something unexpected. Not just a human ship, but a testament to humanity's ingenuity and dedication. With limited technology and resources, they had established themselves as silent guardians, watching over a younger race's first steps into the cosmos. As Zara prepared to order their ship to withdraw respectfully, new data caught her attention. Long-range sensors were detecting something else, something approaching from the outer darkness. Whatever was coming would test the humans' resolve, and perhaps force the Enlightenment's crew to make some difficult decisions of their own. The silent guardian remained at its post, a small but determined sentinel in the vast ocean of stars, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The Enlightenment's sensors painted an increasingly troubling picture as the unknown vessels approached from the outer system. Captain Zara watched the tactical display with growing concern, her crystalline form shifting colors subtly with her unease. 7 ships, Ixal reported, their 4 eyes rapidly processing the incoming data. Configuration unknown, but their energy signatures suggest significant weapon systems. The senior researcher paused, manipulating the holographic controls. They're making no attempt to hide their approach. The human vessel hadn't moved from its position, maintaining its careful watch over the developing civilization below. If anything, its stealth systems had become even more effective, nearly disappearing from the Enlightenment's advanced sensors. New data from our cultural archives, one of the junior researchers announced. We've identified similar energy signatures before, associated with the Harvesters. The name sent a ripple of tension through the bridge crew. The Harvesters were well known among spacefaring races, a nomadic species that preyed on developing civilizations, strip mining their resources and leaving devastated worlds in their wake. They specifically targeted worlds just beginning to develop technology, striking before their victims could develop adequate defenses. The humans must know, Zara said softly. That's why they're here. They're not just watching. They're waiting. As if in response to her words, new data streams began flowing across their sensors. The human ship was transmitting, not to them, but outward into space. The crude quantum entanglement signals they detected earlier had multiplied, forming complex patterns that defied easy analysis. Captain, Ixal called out, excitement tinging their voice. I'm detecting responses, dozens of them, scattered throughout the system. The human ship, it's not alone. It's part of an entire defense network. The tactical display updated, showing ghost images of other vessels, each as carefully hidden as the first. They had positioned themselves along likely approach vectors, creating an invisible web of surveillance and defense. Remarkable, Zara breathed. They've turned their technological limitations into advantages. Those retrofitted mining sensors, they're not just for stealth. They're early warning systems designed to detect the specific signature of mining ships. The approaching harvester vessels continued their advance, apparently unaware of the trap they were entering. Their formation spoke of confidence, even arrogance. They had likely done this many times before, finding easy prey in developing worlds. Signal from the human vessel, the communications officer announced. Text only, using basic mathematical encryption. The message was brief. Enlightenment, clear the area. Things are about to get interesting. Zara felt her crystalline structure vibrate with suppressed tension. Their orders were clear, observe, but do not interfere with developing situations. And yet, ma'am, Ixal said quietly, the humans are badly outgunned. The harvesters have superior technology in almost every way. Almost, Zara replied, watching as the human network began to move with precise coordination. But I don't think the harvesters have ever faced an enemy that turned their own tactics against them. The first sign of the human strategy came as the harvesters passed the orbit of the system's outermost planet. Suddenly, their formation began to drift apart, each ship slightly off course. The deviation was subtle at first, but growing. "They've seeded the approach vectors with gravitic mines," Ixal realized, analyzing the data. "Not powerful enough to damage the ships, but enough to disrupt their formation," Zara finished. "Force them to correct course repeatedly, burning fuel and reducing their maneuverability." It was elegant in its simplicity. The humans hadn't tried to match the Harvester's superior technology. Instead, they had created a battlefield that played to their own strengths: patience, preparation, and the ability to turn seemingly primitive tools to devastating effect. The human vessels remained hidden, their positions revealed only by the faintest traces of their quantum communications. They were coordinating, preparing for whatever came next. The Harvesters, their formation now significantly disrupted, began scanning more actively, finally aware that something was wrong. "Energy spike from the Harvester fleet," the sensor officer reported. "They're charging weapons. But shooting at what?" Ixal wondered aloud. "They still can't see their targets." The answer came in the form of a new signal from the human vessel, this one directed specifically at the Enlightenment. The message was longer this time, but no less clear. "You might want to adjust your sensors to compensate for what's about to happen to local spacetime. We'd hate for your research data to be corrupted." Zara quickly ordered the adjustments, her scientific curiosity warring with her concern. What could this supposedly primitive species have planned that would affect spacetime itself? As the Harvester fleet moved deeper into the system, the trap began to close. The true nature of humanity's silent guardianship was about to be revealed, and with it, a demonstration of just how dangerous a primitive species could be when protecting those under their care. The first sign that something extraordinary was happening came as a ripple through local spacetime. The Enlightenment sensors registered the distortion just as the Harvester fleet reached the middle of the human defense network. Captain Zara watched in fascination as dozens of supposedly primitive mining satellites activated simultaneously. "They're not weapons," Ixal announced, their voice filled with sudden understanding. "They're resonators. The humans have turned their entire mining operation into a space-time manipulation system." The Harvester ships began to slow, their powerful engines struggling against an invisible force. The mining satellites, previously dismissed as scattered debris, were creating overlapping fields of distorted spacetime, turning the very fabric of space against the intruders. "Ingenious," Zara breathed. "They're using industrial gravity wells to create a maze. Each distortion pushes against the others, creating corridors of normal space that exactly match the paths disrupted by their gravitic mines," Ixal finished. "They're hurting the Harvesters." The tactical display showed the truth of it. The Harvester fleet, their formation already compromised, found themselves pushed into predetermined paths. Any attempt to deviate led their ships into stronger gravity distortions. They were being channeled, like water through a series of locks, toward specific points in space. "The human ships are moving," the sensor officer reported. "They're taking up new positions." Through their enhanced sensors, the Enlightenment's crew watched as the hidden human vessels emerged from their stealth positions. They moved with precise coordination, each taking station at one of the intersection points of the gravity maze. The original Guardian ship remained in its position, still protecting the developing world below. The Harvester fleet, now fully aware of the trap, opened fire. Their energy weapons were powerful enough to vaporize small moons, but the human ships weren't where they appeared to be. The retrofitted mining equipment that had kept them hidden now bent both light and energy around their hulls, making them nearly impossible to target accurately. "Message from the human flagship," the communications officer announced. Audio this time. A calm, steady voice filled the bridge. "Harvester vessels, you have entered a protected system. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded, or we will be forced to demonstrate exactly how much damage mining equipment can do when properly modified." The Harvesters responded with another barrage of weapons fire. This time, however, something different happened. The energy beams struck the gravity distortions and bent, curving back toward their sources. Several harvester ships took glancing hits from their own weapons. "They've weaponized the gravity distortions," Ixal said, their voice filled with professional admiration. "The mining resonators aren't just creating barriers. They're turning the harvester's own energy weapons into a hazard." The human ships began to move again, their formation tightening. The gravity maze shifted with them, corridors of normal space closing one by one. The harvester fleet found itself being compressed into an increasingly small volume of space, their options disappearing one by one. Energy spiked from the human vessels. The sensor officer called out, "They're activating something. Wait, those readings can't be right." The space around the trapped harvester ships suddenly lit up with a web of interconnected energy fields. The mining resonators had synchronized their outputs, creating a containment field that even the harvester's advanced shields couldn't penetrate. Another message from the humans, the communications officer reported. "Final warning. Your shields are already failing against the gravity stress. The next surge will crush your ships. Choose." The Enlightenment's bridge crew watched in tense silence as the harvester fleet hung suspended in the human trap. The supposedly primitive species had turned their basic industrial equipment into a weapon that could challenge even advanced military technology. Suddenly, the harvester ship's energy signatures began to drop. One by one, they powered down their weapons. The lead ship transmitted a brief signal. "Surrender." "Well done," Zora murmured, but her relief was short-lived. The sensors were detecting the new anomaly, something massive approaching from the system's outer edge. The human trap had worked perfectly, but it had drawn the attention of something far more dangerous than a harvester raid. The quantum communications between the human ships intensified. Whatever was coming, they had detected it too. The original Guardian ship adjusted its position slightly, still maintaining its protective stance over the developing world despite the new threat. "Captain," Ixal said quietly, "I believe we need to make a decision. Our orders are to observe, but—" Zara studied the tactical display, watching as the human ships efficiently began securing the harvester vessels while simultaneously preparing for the new threat. These supposed primitives had demonstrated not just technological creativity, but a deep commitment to protecting a species that would never even know they existed. "Sometimes," Zora replied, her crystalline form shifting to a deeper, more determined hue. "The most important scientific observations require direct participation in events." She turned to her crew. "Begin charging all systems. If we're going to violate our non-interference protocols, we might as well do it properly." The human Guardian ships maintained their positions, their jury-rigged mining equipment still humming with power, ready to face whatever emerged from the darkness of space. But this time, they wouldn't face it alone. The void between stars rippled as something massive tore its way through subspace. The Enlightenment's advanced sensors struggled to make sense of the readings, while the human ships maintained their defensive formation, their improvised gravity web still holding the captured harvester vessels. "Classification confirmed," Ixal announced, their voice tight with concern. "It's a harvester-high ship, approximately 20 kilometers in length. Energy readings suggest it's carrying enough firepower to sterilize the entire system." A new transmission arrived from the human Guardian ship, this time on a secure quantum frequency that matched the Enlightenment's own protocols. The voice was different from before, older, more seasoned. "Captain Zara, I'm Commander Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. I appreciate your decision to stay, but you should know what we're facing." "We've detected the Hive ship," Zara responded. "Our analysis suggests—" "Your analysis is incomplete," Chen interrupted politely. "The harvesters didn't just stumble upon this system. They were following us. We've been leading them away from Earth for the past 6 months." The revelation sent a shock through the Enlightenment's bridge crew. The humans hadn't just been protecting the developing civilization below. They had been protecting everyone by drawing the harvesters' attention away from populated systems. "The mining equipment," Ixal said suddenly. "It's not your regular technology at all, is it?" A soft chuckle came through the comm. Reverse engineered from harvester tech we captured in our first encounter with them. We couldn't match their weapons, so we had to get creative. But this hive ship, it's different. It learns from every encounter. The massive vessel emerged fully into normal space, its dark hull absorbing nearby starlight. It resembled a mountain range turned inside out, all sharp angles and jagged edges. Smaller ships began launching from its base, hundreds of them. "Commander Chen," Zura said, "the Enlightenment may be a research vessel, but we're not defenseless. What's your plan?" "Already implementing it, Captain. Notice anything interesting about your sensor readings?" Ixal studied their displays, then their eyes widened. "The quantum entanglement network, it's expanded. It's not just connecting the human ships anymore. It's integrating your systems with ours," Chen confirmed. "Your sensors are more advanced, but our gravity manipulation can enhance them. Together, we might stand a chance." The high ship's first attack came not as weapons fire, but as a massive electromagnetic pulse designed to disable electronic systems. It washed over the defended space like a tsunami and broke against an invisible barrier. "Quantum shielding," Ixal breathed. "You're using our sensor network as a foundation for a system-wide defense grid." "Like I said," Chen replied, "we had to get creative. Captain Zora, we need the Enlightenment's processing power to coordinate the grid. Our computers aren't fast enough to calculate the necessary adjustments." Zara didn't hesitate. "You have it. Ixal, give them full access to our quantum cores." The space around them came alive with overlapping fields of distorted gravity and quantum interference. The human ship's mining equipment, guided by the Enlightenment's advanced computers, began creating patterns of mind-bending complexity. The high ship launched its fighter screen, sleek, deadly vessels that moved with perfect coordination. They entered the gravity maze and immediately began adapting to its effects, their artificial intelligence learning and adjusting with each passing second. But they weren't the only ones learning. The combined human-alien defense network evolved in real time. The Enlightenment's quantum processors analyzing attack patterns and adjusting the gravity fields faster than organic minds could follow. "Energy spike from the high ship," the sensor officer called out. "They're charging their main weapon." "Now, Commander," Zara asked, watching as the massive vessel oriented toward their position. "Now, Captain." Executing Operation Honeypot. The captured harvester ships, still held in the gravity web, suddenly powered up. But instead of weapons, they activated their engines at full power, directly against the containment field holding them. The gravity resonators aren't just creating barriers, Ixal realized. They're collecting and storing energy. All this time, you've been building up a charge, Chen confirmed. And now we're going to return it. The high ship fired, its main weapon releasing enough energy to crack a planet. But at the exact same moment, the gravity web collapsed inward. The captured harvester ship's engines overloaded spectacularly, their energy combining with the stored power in the resonators. Space itself seemed to buckle as the human ships and the Enlightenment channeled the combined energy through their linked systems, turning it back against the high ship. The massive vessel's shields flared brilliant white as they tried to absorb the attack. For a moment, the entire star system seemed to hold its breath. Then the high ship's shields began to fail, one section at a time. The vessel's fighter screen broke formation, trying to intervene, but they were caught in the reconfigured gravity maze. But the high ship was not finished. As its shields failed, it revealed one final surprise, a weapon that began tearing holes in the fabric of space itself. The fabric of space crackled with energy as the high ship's final weapon tore reality itself, creating swirling vortices that threatened to consume everything in their path. The combined fleet of human ships and the Enlightenment held their formation, their integrated systems straining against the unprecedented assault. Analysis complete, Ixal announced, their 4 eyes tracking multiple data streams simultaneously. They're creating artificial singularities. If they collapse, they'll take half the system with them. Commander Chen's voice came through the quantum link, steady despite the chaos around them. They're not trying to win anymore. They're making sure nobody else can have this system. Standard harvester protocol. If they can't take it, they destroy it. The developing civilization below remained unaware of the battle raging above their world. The original Guardian ship maintained its protective position, even as space itself twisted and warped around it. "Commander," Zara said, her crystalline form pulsing with determined energy, "your gravity manipulation technology, could it affect those singularities?" "Not enough power," Chen replied. "We'd need at least 3 times the energy we just used in the last attack." Ixal suddenly straightened, all 4 eyes widening. "The harvester ship's cores. They're antimatter-based. If we could trigger a controlled overload, we'd get the power we need," Chen finished. "But we'd have to bring down our defensive grid to reconfigure the gravity web. We'd be exposed." Zara studied the tactical display, watching as the artificial singularities grew larger, threatening to tear the system apart. The high ship hung in space like a wounded predator, still dangerous, still capable of taking them all with it. "The Enlightenment shields," Zara said. "They're based on different principles than your technology. We could maintain a barrier while you reconfigure." "It would have to be perfect timing," Chen responded. "One mistake, and we lose everything." A new voice cut through their discussion, young, determined, from one of the human ships closest to the developing world. "The Guardian position will hold. We'll make sure nothing gets through to the planet." Zara felt a surge of respect for these humans who would risk everything to protect a civilization that would never know they existed. "Very well. Enlightenment will take point position. Commander Chen, begin your reconfiguration. Everyone else, prepare for our last stand." The space around them shifted as the human ships began moving their gravity resonators, creating new patterns of force and energy. The Enlightenment's advanced shields sprang to life, creating a shimmering barrier between the fleet and the high ship's attacks. The artificial singularities pulled at everything around them, their gravitational force growing stronger by the second. The high ship launched its remaining fighters in a desperate attack, trying to disrupt the reconfiguration. "Harvester cores at critical threshold," Ixal reported. "Commander Chen, the gravity web is ready." "On my mark." Chen's voice was calm, focused. 3, 2, 1. Execute. The captured harvester ship's cores detonated in perfect sequence, their antimatter containment failing in a precisely controlled cascade. The gravity web caught the released energy, channeling it through the network of resonators. The Enlightenment's quantum processors calculated and adjusted the fields in real time, directing the massive power surge exactly where it needed to go. The energy struck the artificial singularities like a spear of light piercing darkness. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the singularities began to change, their violent distortions smoothing out, becoming more ordered. "It's working," Ixal announced. "The singularities are stabilizing. They're becoming navigable wormholes." The hive ship, realizing its final weapon had been turned against it, attempted to flee. But it was too late. The stabilized wormholes began to pull at the massive vessel, their combined gravitational force impossible to resist. "Commander," Zara called out, "we can send them somewhere specific." The Enlightenment star charts include several uninhabited systems. "No," Chen replied firmly. "We send them somewhere they can never hurt anyone again." "Ixal, can you calculate a trajectory into intergalactic space?" The calculations took only moments. The wormholes shifted their orientation, creating a one-way path into the void between galaxies. The high ship, caught in their grip, was pulled inexorably toward its exile. As the massive vessel disappeared into the wormholes, the combined fleet maintained their positions, ensuring the portals remained stable long enough to complete the banishment. When it was done, the wormholes collapsed with a final flash of light, leaving only empty space where the threat had been. In the aftermath, the human ships resumed their stealth positions, their mining equipment returning to its disguised state. The guardian ship above the developing world never moved from its protective stance. An interesting solution, Zura said, breaking the silence. Not destruction, but exile. Sometimes the best victory is the one that leaves room for change, Chen responded. Even the harvesters might learn something out there in the dark. The Enlightenment's crew began compiling their data, documenting everything they had witnessed. But Zura knew that the most important discoveries had nothing to do with technology or tactics. "You'll continue your watch?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Someone has to," Chen replied simply. "Every species deserves a chance to reach the stars on their own terms. We'll be here, silent but ready, until they do." As the Enlightenment prepared to depart, Zora looked one last time at the apparently empty space around the developing world. The human ships were invisible again, their jury-rigged technology masking their presence. But she knew they were there, standing guard over tomorrow's possibilities. They were the silent guardians, protecting not just one world, but the very idea that every civilization deserved a chance to forge its own destiny. And they would remain at their posts, invisible but vigilant, for as long as they were needed. In the end, that was humanity's greatest strength, not their ability to wage war or their clever use of technology, but their unwavering commitment to protecting the potential of others, even at great cost to themselves. The Enlightenment disappeared into subspace, carrying with it a new understanding of what it meant to be truly advanced. Sometimes, the most sophisticated civilizations were the ones who chose to remain silent, watching over the future with patient determination and quiet courage.